The bipolar DM, Jason Cottam. His show talks about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. Check us out right here on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, also on WLFE-DB.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. So take a seat, sit back, and get ready for the Bipolar DM.
Welcome to the Bipolar DM Show. This is a show about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with the mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me by email at thebipolardm@gmail.com, or you can visit my webpage, www.thebipolardm.com. There you'll find previous episodes of my podcast, my blog, as well as information about indie writing, Dungeons & Dragons, and mental illness. For those of you that are on Facebook, we have a Facebook fan page. The handle is @TheBipolarDM. There's more up-to-date postings that I have on there than I do on my webpage, just because it's an easier platform for me to work from my phone, so I can post videos and articles and other postings as well. And for fans of the show, we have a private group page, which is called The Bipolar DM Nation. And it's a private group, and really all we ask is that you follow one rule and one rule only, and that's to be respectful. As long as everybody's able to do that, we don't have to have 10 pages of disclaimers and rules before anybody can come in through the front door. And I wanted to give a shout out to WLFE-DB.com. That's where you can find not only this show, but other shows such as Everything and Nothing, Across the Pond, and other shows like that. There's so many great shows on WLFE-DB.com. And the websites are improving every day. They're working hard on that, so for a better experience for everybody. So be sure to check them out and check out some of the other shows we got going on. In today's show, we're going to be talking about anxiety and depression, and we're going to have with us Otis and T-Roy, and they'll be coming on in just a minute. And before we get to them, I wanted to just give a kind of plug-in on some of the stuff that we have coming in the pipeline. Next week, we are going to have a Dungeons & Dragons game live on this show for 1 hour. So let's see if I can time the game just right so it does end on an hour, because we have a meeting afterwards that we can't miss. And this is mostly going to be hosts that are on the different networks, on the different shows within the network. And we're going to have a great time demonstrating what D&D is about and what it's not about. And we're going to have some new players. We're going to have some seasoned players. So it's going to be great. Looking forward to having a bunch of guests on board playing this game with me. Also, we're going to have an interview with Dr. Tony B. with Geek Therapeutics. That's going to be coming up soon. Hopefully, if we get the interview done on Monday, it should be on the following show after the show after the Dungeons and Dragons game. And so be on the lookout for that. Geek Therapeutics uses geek culture to bridge the gap of therapy with gamers and people who use Dungeons and Dragons in a therapeutic manner and stuff like that. It's just a lot of great information about what they're doing. And a program that I've just started going off the ground as Dungeons and Dog Tags. And this is where a program that I got kind of hatched just about a week ago after GaryCon, where I'd like to try and see if we can't get some D&D games going with boots on the ground in Afghanistan and Iraq with some of the soldiers out there. So I'm in the very beginning stages of this, so we're just at the idea stage, but stay tuned for more news about that. That's something I'm very excited about trying to get off the ground and get going. All right, and we're going to be talking about depression and anxiety. My personal experience, my longest depressive episode was just over 3 years long, and it was there's just no describing the absolute darkness that surrounded me and kept me locked in my room for months on end, to the point where my muscles became atrophied, and I was not able to go outside or do anything, and I missed out on years of my kids' life because of my depression. And slowly the clouds began to roll away, and oh, hello, Genevieve. Thank you for commenting. I'm going to try and work hard on keep an eye on the comments too. We're going to have an open discussion after we talk to T. Roy and Otis about these two topics. So, okay. Getting back to my story, slowly the clouds began to fade, and I came out of my depression. And it was a process. It wasn't just like an overnight thing where one day I wasn't depressed anymore, but it just seemed to get better and better, and the darkness didn't seem to be so oppressive. And my new hurdle, though, is anxiety. I suffer from social anxiety. That's why I have a service dog, Harper. Hey, brother, Dominic. Good to see you. And so she has been a real game changer to me. We're hoping to have on Tank, a trainer for service dogs, soon. Trying to make the arrangements with him so we can get him on the show to talk about service dogs and psychiatric service dogs in particular. So that's something that's on the pipeline. And let's go ahead and bring on Otis first, and then we'll bring on T. Roy. So hold on a sec. Hey, Otis, how's it going?
Hey, how are you, sir? Thank you for having me on once again. What an important topic to be discussing, depression, anxiety.
Yeah, especially with depression being so prevalent in our society, and more so in the recent year since the lockdown and the pandemic, how more and more people are developing depression and social anxiety and other mental illnesses.
hmm It is, and here's the thing that listening to your opening, I was thinking, anxiety, can come from many different areas. It could be that you don't feel like you fit in. Therefore, you close everyone off. Depression, it also works that very same way. Those two are very closely linked. At least they have been in my experiences, because depression can bring about the anxiety can bring about the depression. It's a very vicious circle.
Yeah, definitely, and they feed in on each other too, and that's why these two topics are so closely related, because so many
Yes.
people have dual diagnosis with depression and anxiety
hmm
disorders.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did, as I've mentioned on past shows. My diagnosis was, at first primarily bipolar, and but I couldn't understand why, why am I getting this anxiety? Why am I getting this depression that can go, not so much weeks like bipolar, but through the course of the day, and I'm
Yeah,
feeling this. And so I kind of hone in on the, the borderline aspect to it. The anxiety part of it, oh, it is absolutely brutal, as I'm sure as your next guest there, T. Roy, will be able to attest to, as well as your listeners. Anxiety is crippling, as just
yeah,
as much as depression. can be.
Oh yeah.
And it is very hard. It is very hard to reach out. We hear those same cliches. Oh, just get out and be active and do something, and you'll pull yourself out of it. And yes,
Yeah.
as much as this may be true, it's not as easy as what people seem to think. Anxiety is a pit that you, in the midst of it, you can't seem to pull yourself out of.
Yeah,
And
it's like a mud pit.
exactly. Equate anxiety in the midst of maybe a borderline episode, a lower, because with bipolar, you have, highs and lows on the lower end of that spectrum. I equate it to this. To me, it seems like the more I try to get out of it, the less I can. It's almost like being stuck in quicksand. The more you try to get out of it, it seems like the worse it gets. And that, for me anyway, is the big problem. Do you ever suffer with that as well? Like, you get into a mood and it's like, man, I want to crawl out of this. I got to get out of this mood. But yet the more you try, the less you seem to, get out of it.
It just seems to suck the energy right out of you, as if there's
It really does.
external force that sucks the life out of you. And that's kind of how depression is to me, is it's not only an oppressive cloud of inking blackness, but it's also one that sucks the life out of you. And
it really
you
does.
don't have the energy to go take a shower or brush your teeth or take your meds, or just to go outside and get a meal with the family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how devastating this illness can be. And let's
and,
go ahead
and how
yeah.
Well, how appropriate, real quick before you pull in, T-Roy, how appropriate that this being a holiday weekend, and holidays, maybe some more than others, are very hard for some of us that deal with depression, mainly depression, anxiety as well. We have family gatherings and whatnot. So how appropriate that you bring this up, on a holiday weekend. I hope everyone has a great Easter weekend and enjoys their family, their friends, and whatever they're doing. Be safe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go ahead and bring on T-Roy.
Hello.
T-Roy. Hello. So we are talking about depression and anxiety, and that's something that I know you have some experience with.
Yes, absolutely. I was in a deep depression for about 10 years. About 3.5 years ago, I started coming out of that depression. But like you both were saying, it's really difficult in controlling that, because you really don't know how to at some points. You just got to work with it, and hopefully the ones that are around you accept you. And but I've come out to understand that if you get a circle of people together to where you have your group, your family, your brothers, your sisters, whoever, and kind of reach out to them, it kind of helps, but to only an extent. It doesn't fully take it away, like you were saying. And it's really difficult to, there's so many people that take it wrong, and realize what's going on. So that's when they take it wrong, and that's when everything starts going bad and everything like that. But yeah, it sucks, and it can definitely be crippling. Like I said, it was 10 years, and I was married, and I'm still married, but it kind of took a toll on even our marriage throughout but thank God he's my best friend, and was willing to work through it and learn, and was willing to change with however I needed him to change with.
That's a beautiful thing, T-Roy, honestly, because it is with people that suffer from crippling depression or anxiety, or those that are borderline.
Harper.
The hounds from hell have come.
Let's
Right.
seek the hounds of war. Yeah, the dogs
Right
of
there,
war.
there you go. Yeah, but it is very those that suffer from borderline personality disorder. It is a very interpersonal, strife that happens, and so I think what you said is actually very beautiful. I think of my wife as my best friend.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you think of your husband as your best friend, and that's all that matters, because that is very important for us that deal with depression, anxiety, to have that really close support group.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
and
a
that's
lot
one
of
of those key
people realize
things.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's very key to have is the relationships, the interpersonal relationships, because those are what's going to get us out of
Yes.
the depression and they get us past our anxiety. I mean, you were just mentioning holiday weekend. Well, I mean, I went to Walmart and it was a freaking zoo over there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about, even Harper was having some anxiety, going through there. So, but she
Yeah.
did great. But yeah, it's just when you get the holiday weekends, especially when you got to go to the store for necessities, it's just like,
Yeah.
man, it's just crazy.
It is crazy.
I hate going to the store anymore. It's like, oh god. I mean, if we order it, like we DoorDash, food or something, I don't even want to go to the door. She's like, my wife would be like, will you go and get the food? Like, do I really have to? I have to deal with people. And yes, that is lightweight a joke, but there's a lot of seriousness involved with that. I don't want to deal with people like that face to face.
Right.
It's a very weird feeling because I'm very kind of outgoing, and you get me out talking with people. I'm very outgoing, but yet if I have to meet a stranger for food being delivered or something being delivered, I don't even want to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah. Just again getting back to energy and the energy it takes to even present yourself to another human being.
Yeah.
So when you came out of it, what was it like coming out of the depression, T. Roy?
It was eye-opening. Before I went in there, I was outgoing. I talked to anybody would come up to me and just talk to me, and I'd carry on a conversation with them. They tell me their whole life story. I don't even know them, and it really didn't bother me. And then when I came out, I noticed that that's whenever I noticed that I had changed, because I love talking to people. I love listening to people. I love learning about people and stuff like that. But, the other guest on here was like saying it's difficult coming out because to me, it was difficult, but then again, it wasn't difficult because it was difficult for me to come out to people. It was really funny because LGBTQ come out of the closet all the time on certain subjects, and whenever this all happened, that's when I noticed that there was change in me, and then I started working on myself and putting myself back together to where I can handle society, I can handle running into people to an extent. It still bothers me. It still gives me anxiety. Right. Would not believe, but whenever I was growing up, I suppressed my depression and I suppressed my anxiety, like all the time. Like you could look at me and not even tell that I had issues of any kind whatsoever.
Right.
And so whenever all this started happening is whenever I even changed that, like. I'm not that person anymore. I don't hold that shit in. Like it kind of takes you out, and it sucks the life out of you. And I'm teaching myself that I just can't give a rip all the time over things that are just gonna take my oxygen and take my life away from living my life. Because it can be very crippling, and you don't always know when people are in depression or anxiety. There's people suicidal every day that actually go through with it. And, people don't even realize that. I've met people that were like that, and then I'm like, oh, really? I had no.
I'm one of them, sir. I am one of them. Absolutely. I can walk through life, through my job, around people, and in my head, I'm a completely different person. My thoughts are completely different than what people are perceiving on the outside.
Yes. And, hopefully there's more awareness to, maybe dig a little bit deeper or actually listen to the person that's talking to you. Because, sometimes if we listen just right, we can catch it. But it's easy to not catch it because it's so hidden.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we do such good jobs of hiding it, too, because that's kind of what's expected of us in society, to suck it up and... and that's one of the things that I hate about the stigma of mental illness is the expectation that that you're supposed to be okay.
Yeah. But yeah,
I actually, I work with a guy who, for the longest time thought that, depression was just, I don't know, maybe psychosomatic, I mean, it was just all in your head. And he would make, comments like, all right, thank God you put the little warning up in the beginning, but he would make, comments like, what do you have to be depressed about? You don't like tacos and blowjobs?
Yeah.
And that was and yes, I do. All right. For those wondering, yes, I do like both of those. But the reason I bring that up is because it seemed very, I guess, uneducated.
Yeah.
On how he's perceiving this, because he didn't even think that this was a damn thing until he experienced some things, and then he started thinking, yeah, maybe there's something to this whole depression thing. It's like, dude, man, I've been dealing with this for 30 plus years.
Yeah. Oh, we lost T-Roy.
T-Roy maybe had a little connection issue. Oh, he's back. There we go. Yeah. Welcome back, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
So, let me put this out to you, Otis. What advice do you have for people that are in the middle of depression? I mean, where you can't see the water's edge. You're just in the midst of it.
Man, what a tough question. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me this, because it is a very tough place to be. When you ask me that, I put myself back in those situations where I was that person, and I'm thinking to myself, what did I want? What would have helped me? And the only thing I can come up with is, I want people to talk to me.
Yeah.
I don't want people to shy away from me, because I will get very recluse. I will get, drawn into myself, and I don't want that to have people shy away from me because of that, because that's just how I deal with it. What I need is somebody to, again, the quicksand metaphor. I need somebody to grab my hand, pull me out of it, and not in a very, exactly, not in a, a literal sense, but just by talking and trying to pull me out, and just be there. When you're in that, don't. I know that a quicksand metaphor may be a little disheartening to anyone, going through that, but understand, keep fighting. You're not going to drown. Keep fighting. And hopefully you have the support, around you, like T-Roy mentioned, like you have mentioned, Jason. Hopefully you have that support around you. And if you do, rely on them. And if they are a true support system, rely on them wholeheartedly. You're not fucking alone. We're all here. We're all dealing with this. All of you guys listening. Anybody dealing with this, there is hope. You will pull through. I promise you, I've been doing it again for 30 plus years. You will too.
All right, same question to you, T. Roy.
I would just say, get your circle. One thing that I do like of myself now is I like myself. I have come to realize who I am and how I am going to be for the rest of my life. Health wise and my body wise.
Beautiful.
But that's not easy. That's not easy doing, because a lot of people don't realize change is just part of your life. It doesn't matter if it's crappy change, it's gonna happen. And sometimes we just gotta let that happen.
Yep.
So we can grasp up to that and not worry about, stop saying no to yourself. If there is something that you want to do and it doesn't matter how hard that shit is to get done or to happen for you, you do it. Don't hold yourself back, because no matter who you are and how everything is going to be, you can make it better, because we have control over that to an extent. And that's why I say get your purple, get your people around you, get your circle, get your family, friends, and know that you have numbers there to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to reach out, because that's what will happen is you need to realize you are worth life and living, and you got to screw that. You got to screw it, just put it aside, get something in your head that is a positive outlook for yourself, and just grasp a hold of that shit and ride it, because that's all we can do.
There you go. That needed a round of applause, because I think the most beautiful thing you said, T. Roy, and all of that, which I did not say, was, and it's very hard for somebody in the midst of a depression or an anxiety attack. Love yourself. Know you're fucking worth it. You are fucking worth it.
Yeah.
Yes, you are fucking worth it. Change your shit. Change it for yourself. Don't change it for nobody else, because you ain't gonna learn or do anything for yourself.
Yeah.
At that moment, you got to do it for yourself, and then do it for the one that you are with or the ones that you are around.
Yes.
Yep.
Agreed.
All right, we're going to go ahead and go to a commercial break, and then we'll pick back up in just a minute.
Don't make us swervy.
All right, Otis had to jet because he has his own podcast coming up, so I want to thank him for showing up. And T. Roy, too, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. All right, and we'll go ahead and open this up for some comments or questions. Oh, there we go. T. Roy's back. Yay!
Sorry about that.
All right, welcome back. No, that's all right.
Yeah, my
That's
nappy
still
is a new
amazing
driver.
what technology can do.
Yeah, I
Amazing
know,
what
right?
technology can do, though, right?
But keep it under 30.
So you're doing driving lessons?
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his license, but he's still new at it. He's doing really awesome.
All right. Does anybody in the comments section have any questions or anything like that about depression or anxiety?
It's really curvy, so you can slow down to 20.
Yeah, we think it's really important to share because if you don't share and you don't educate, people are not going to know, and they're not going to become
Yeah.
informed. They're not going to become informed when it comes to uh, what uh, what depression is, what it's not, what anxiety is, what it's not, what mental illness, is all about. And so by sharing our stories, we're showing people that we're not afraid of the stigma of mental illness, and we're not going to let what other people think about us keep us silent anymore.
Yes. Yes. Don't keep it silent because that's not gonna help you. Out and proud, no matter what. Like we live one life, and we gotta make it the best we can. And the only way I feel that we're gonna ever do that is to ask questions. Like
Yeah.
um, the other guy that was on here said that one guy asked questions to an extent after he learned. But if you know somebody and they're going through anxiety or depression, be considerate of them because it happens every day and you may need that person someday.
Yeah. Let's talk about anxiety real quick. How do you describe your own anxiety attacks? Because everybody's a little bit different, but there are a lot of commonalities that runs through everybody's anxiety attacks, such as the sense of dying, like you're having a heart attack, or you can't catch your breath,
Yes,
hyperventilating.
yes.
So what is it like, and what are some of the triggers that can set you off that you know about?
Well, I do know about like grocery stores or any kind of small lane. If I'm there and there's nobody else there, it's awesome. And then if people start showing up, I feel like somebody is taking my oxygen. My heart starts beating really fast. It gets really scary. I feel like, oh my God, something's gonna happen. I'm not gonna like it, or I'm just gonna like, not go off, but talk to somebody wrong, or it's gonna come out wrong, or something like that. So
Yeah.
add to it, and I'm not the type person to really take it out on anybody, but it can happen and not even know it until it's too late, and then it's like, oh crap, and so I remove myself. Keep it on right here. Yeah, you're gonna go. And so, I just that's whenever I remove myself and I go somewhere where nobody is around, like to my car. I have had
Right.
attacks and it scares me so bad that that person's gonna hurt me or something horrible is just gonna be like, so I don't know, just painful and scary and like a little
Right.
kid almost again. You're not feeling like an adult. You're not like feeling nothing except that fear of whatever you're fearing at that moment in time. And that's normal, that's what we have to work on. That's what we got to fix. And like I said earlier, it's not easy. It's never going to be easy, but we can
Yeah.
make it
It's
easier by looking stuff up, asking questions, being there for each other. Get your little circle of other depressed people or other people that have anxiety, and learn from them because we're not all the same. We're all different,
yeah.
and we got to find our own ways of doing it. Turn right
Yeah, because we're all different, and I always look at everything as tools in a toolbox. That's my favorite metaphor.
over. Yeah.
Medication is not a silver
Yeah.
bullet. It's just a tool in the
No.
toolbox that works for some people and doesn't work for
Right.
others.
Right.
Therapy, different types of therapy, whether it's one-on-one therapy, group therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever, floats
Yeah.
your boat. Those are
Yep.
all tools. And removing yourself from a potential stressful situation is another tool to have in your toolbox,
Yes.
and relaxation techniques. And so all these things, work together, and you use combination of tools too, just like you would on a framing job.
Yep.
You're not only using a claw hammer or a framing hammer, you're using a saw, you're using a T square, you're using, all
Yep.
kinds of other tools, also to make that job happen. So in the same way, you need to have multiple tools in your toolbox. And this particular like bipolar disorder does not get better with time. It's just that we learn how to cope with it better.
We accept it, we cope with it, and we just
learn
work
how
with
to
it.
deal. Yeah, we learn how to deal with it, and because my emotions are just as intense as when I was 22 than they are as I am at 44.
Yep.
You know, with the memories and the flashbacks and stuff like that, and reliving this crap. It just it's just you just learn how to deal with it, and then
and
that's
you find something that you are willing to take place of whatever is making you feel the way that you're feeling at that moment in time. Like, I found something that I love doing, and I have put every bit of me in it to where it's just, that's it. I want to do whatever is making me happy, not whatever is making me sad or depressed or giving me anxiety at that moment in time. If it's giving you anxiety and you're going to do it every day, find another way of doing that to where that anxiety is not there.
Yeah. Like shopping. Thank God for online shopping. I can do that now.
Yeah. Find other people to play games with, or, put yourself into work. If you like your work and you like what you do for a living and trying to do, put yourself into that and, let it out. Let somebody else know. Let somebody else hear it, so we're not so shunned and looked down upon and like it's a horrible thing. Not a horrible thing. It's life. It's normal.
Yeah, and it's like we didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask to have my military career cut short, and live on disability for the rest of my life. Retire at 38, not knowing what to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah, and Robert makes a point about you learn how to avoid triggers, and you also learn how to deal with those triggers that we don't know about, because there are always going to be those triggers. Yeah. We got the triggers we know about, and then we got the ones we don't know about that'll creep on to us from left field. Yeah. And so we got our techniques for dealing with that kind of stuff too, whether it's removing yourself from the situation altogether, whether it's like at Walmart, and you come up to a crowd of people and you're just like, I can't handle this. And you leave your cart there and go outside for 20 minutes, smoke a doobie, or whatever he has to do. That kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's something there. You're not by yourself. Nobody's by themselves. We get to feel like that sometimes. And that's when we got to tell ourselves, no, that shit's wrong. I am not by myself. I have myself if I don't have anybody else.
Yeah, and that's where like a safety plan comes in so much handy in having those if you suffer from depression, especially, and your safety plan, if you're not familiar with what one is, it lists out your circle of friends, people that you can contact if you're having a rough time and you need to talk to somebody. Places to go to distract yourself, whether it is to go to a big box store or a quiet bookstore or the lake or wherever you got to go to, or go to your car. Places to go, things to do to distract yourself, and reminders too of what you're living for. So this is a very important piece of documentation that everybody who suffers from mental illness should have, even if you don't have suicidal ideation or suicidal intent, because the worst time to come up with a safety plan is when you're in the middle of the shit, not before, and you certainly don't want to do it afterwards, because there might not be an afterwards.
No.
So, okay. So, are you excited about playing Dungeons and Dragons?
I am so excited. Like, I have never played Dungeons and Dragons ever. Well, I take that back. I did one time. I don't even remember what it was all about because I was young. And a lot of people didn't care for others. Like my mom really didn't care for me to play it because some people say certain things about it and make it into something that is not really a horrible thing, but they try to make it into something that is a horrible thing. And
Right.
so I'm not strayed away from it. I've never had the chance or anything to
Yeah.
even, I don't know the first faintest thing about it whatsoever. But yeah, I'm excited. Like, you get to make your own characters up, and I love my character that you've made up for me, and I am so ready to really get into it and see what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm worried about is going overtime, because it's going to get. I'm going to have to really watch the clock on this episode, this next episode, because it's so easy to get into the game that you forget. You kind of lose track of time, and you're referring to the great Satan scare of the '80s is what a lot of people
Yeah,
talk about. When
yeah,
people didn't understand what Dungeons and Dragons was all about,
right,
it was the devil and witchcraft,
yeah.
and people were killing their
An open
parents
door.
and that kind of garbage.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and there was a couple movies that came out. Tom Hanks was in one where he played a guy with a
Yeah,
schizoaffective disorder, I think, and he lost touch with reality. And they kind of blamed it on the game, but it was kind of a veiled attempt to blame it on the game and not necessarily a young man who, unfortunately,
yeah.
suffers from mental illness. But
So I'm kind of
yeah,
losing you. So if I lose you, I'll just pop right back on.
oh, that sounds good to me. So, okay. And for those of you who are not familiar with what Dungeons and Dragons is, Dungeons and Dragons is a collective storytelling. It's an immersive game in which you play a character in a story. So imagine, if you would, you're reading your favorite book or watching your favorite movie and you want to be a character in that story. Well, Dungeons and Dragons allows you to do that, where you can be a character in the story, and you have free reign to do what you want, say what you want, go anywhere that you would like within this fantasy world that you're in. And it's a magical world, so there's magic and there's monsters and there's magical creatures and all kinds of stuff.
Awesome.
Combat, yeah. So you got combat, you got puzzles, you got traps. So it really tests all your skills, especially with improv and stuff like that too. So
Yeah.
if you're really enjoy improv, you'll really get into Dungeons and Dragons a lot, because it's a lot of improv. Let's see. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Let me go ahead, and I'm going to
How long
just
have
take
you
a
been
short
doing
commercial.
that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
How long have you been doing Dungeons and Dragons?
I started back in '92 is when I first started, and that was under second edition Dungeons and Dragons. And wow, that was a really complicated system. It used a lot of math, and if you weren't into math,
Yeah.
it was a tough game to play. It's not like this latest version, fifth edition, which is very player friendly and not so heavy on the
Awesome.
math. So I've been playing off and on for a better part of going on 30 years now. And this stint,
Yeah.
this stint of playing as a dungeon master, I've been doing it for about 6-7 years now. This stint, so
Yeah.
that's about how long I've been doing it. So I played with some different versions of the game. Yeah, what's really cool and what I'm learning about with Dungeons and Dragons is the therapeutic value of the game. Dungeons and Dragons allows a person to use the environment to practice social skills and coping mechanisms and other techniques in a friendly environment with zero real world consequences. So if they want to practice their social skills and talking to a stranger And what's the worst that can happen is that, you know, the stranger pulls a sword on them and takes their head off, you know, but you know, but the real world consequences, there is none. And so, but they're finding out though, in the last decade, the therapeutic value, especially people with social disorders, anxiety disorders, those on the autism spectrum, as well as benefiting from Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, there's a high number of us that have ADHD. I have ADHD also as one of my diagnoses. But yeah, I had a lot of problems in school.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of those things where I was a very smart kid. It was just didn't like school at all. I especially hated homework. That was my biggest nemesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people get diagnosed are getting diagnosed much later in life as well, because tests weren't around when we were kids, especially with those on the autism spectrum. Right. And stuff like that. Like my friend JR was in his 40s when he was diagnosed with autism. You know, and it was kind of like, wow, it's kind of the eye-opening moment for him that kind of explained that he's not weird, he's just autistic.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I'm looking for some questions here, and let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and just take a quick commercial break. We're coming towards the end of the show, so we'll just take a quick break and then come right back after this little commercial.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
All right, welcome back. We're going to go ahead, and we're getting close to the end of the show, so we got about 12 minutes left. So before we tie this up, let's just go over again real quick some of the signs and symptoms. Let's talk about some signs and symptoms of anxiety, especially from people that have not experienced it themselves. What are some of the things that you go through when you know you're having an anxiety attack?
You feel your heartbeat fast. You feel short of breath. Your mind starts racing like nothing, to where you don't know what's to come next. You get kind of nervous, kind of a little bit shaky. You just feel that nervousness within you, and just takes your breath and everything I was just saying. That's about how I come to realize whenever something's about to happen.
Yeah, and then that's where, you know, recognizing those early signs and symptoms become very important, so that when you recognize the early warning signs, that you're able to take a tool out of your toolbox and relax, remove yourself from the situation or whatnot. And so that's where it's really important to know the signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression, especially, you know, loss of interest in everyday activities, especially stuff that used to give you pleasure, is a big sign of depression. Irritability. Sometimes people don't show depression as being depressed, but actually can show as being irritable.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, when you roll up your characters, do you use actual dice, or do you use the computer to randomly generate your stats? Actually, we use kind of a combination of both. We're using a program called
I'm going to have to jump off here because I'm going to lose you.
All right. Well, thanks for having you on, and we'll see you next week, man, when we get together for a
All right.
game.
Awesome. Peace
All
and
right.
love to you
Peace
and
and
everybody
love.
else. Check me out. Everything Yet Nothing. WLFE-DB.com.
All right, everybody, check him out. All right, see you there. What we're using for our dice rolls is for our stats is D&D Beyond, and we use what's called a standard player array, where you have a really good stat and you have a pretty poor stat. So you may be really good in strength, but not so great in charisma. And so that's how we generally do our stats. Not that I don't trust people when it comes to dice rolls, but some people have been getting some pretty high dice rolls lately, when we're playing at the table. Okay. All right, Harper, that's enough, girl. That's my service dog, Harper. She's barking at the neighbor. She's being dog right now. One of the amazing things that I found out about service dogs is that they know when they're on patrol or when they're on duty, and they know when they're not. And when they're not on duty, they're just a regular dog. And they're not machines. Even though they are classified legally as medical equipment. But service dogs are amazing creatures, and what we have been able to do with training these animals to service us and to perform tasks is amazing. Okay. And be sure to follow Harper's. She's on Twitter and Instagram, so I need to put some more pictures up for her. She tries to post every day just what's going on in her service dog life and places she goes to and stuff like that. And we'll go ahead and... Oh, got one more console. Yeah. Homebrew is when you create your own games, and homebrews are a lot of fun, especially when you're making up your own worlds based on something you've seen on television or a movie or something like that. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and tie this up. Thank you so much for watching the Bipolar DEM show, and I am your host, Jason. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me by email at thebipolardm@gmail.com, and I'll put that up right here. And be sure to also check out our Facebook page. It is at thebipolardm. That is our handle. And there we have more up-to-date articles, videos, and postings on there than we do on our webpage, which is www.thebipolardm.com. And for fans of the page, we have our group page, which is The Bipolar DM Nation. Free to sign up. Everybody is welcome. You don't have to have a mental illness or play Dungeons and Dragons or be an indie writer to enjoy this group. It's more of a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like living with a mental illness on a day-to-day basis, as well as kind of the behind-the-scenes on the podcast as well. And be sure to check out other shows on WLFE-DB.com, WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows, and that makes for great talk radio. I'd like to want to thank you again for tuning in, and all right. Yes, so Magic the Gathering, used to play Dungeons and Dragons. Oh man, I have some great stories about. I'm gonna have to share sometime about Dungeons and Dragons and stuff that goes on at the table. All right, thank you so much, and remember, if you're on them, take your meds.
Thank you for listening to the Bipolar DM. They love sharing thoughts and ideas. See you next week, 7 p.m. Saturdays on WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows, and that makes for great talk radio. WLFE Digital Broadcast Network is on TV. You can watch all of our shows on WLFE-DB.com. Check out our channels: Paranormal View for all of your paranormal type shows, LGBTQ Friends for all of our LGBTQ shows, Variety Unlimited for all other shows, It runs 24/7 right on WLFE-TV.com. You'll even catch the lives, all in one place. Never miss an episode, past or future. WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.